what they've come up with now really takes the cake. They're coming up with completely new arguments about why Friedrich Merz is actually good for this country to reassure the voters. But more on that in a moment. I had to read it 3 times this morning because otherwise I wouldn't have believed it. By the way, things could get pretty tight for Annalena Baerbock at the same time. Some are already speculating that she will step down early from the UN. And if you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. This morning, the very first thing we're going to look at is Gabor Steingart's statement about Friedrich Merz's chancellorship. I didn't want to believe it when I heard it.
Helmut Kohl, Gerhard Schröder, and Angela Merkel also experienced setbacks before they shaped their time in government. The chronology of those rocky starts as chancellor can ease Merz's resentment.
That's a distortion of history, to be honest. Well, Helmut Kohl really lost out at the beginning. Yes, but that was also because of the vote of no confidence and because he became chancellor without an election, and then he called for new elections and forced the country to vote again. Yes, that's true. People held that against him a bit at the beginning. Gerhard Schröder only lost a bit after 100 days. However, no, 49%, 40% of all people were satisfied with him. Merkel had an approval rating, even in the first 1 or 2 years, of 69%. Friedrich Merz has 13%. You can't compare that at all. By the way, I'm going to show you something in a moment, but I'll do that a little later. Someone will tell you what kind of positions and titles, among other things, an SPD member actually has. In theory, he would have to work at least 200 hours a day to do justice to every job here in this federal government. And that upsets people. That's why the SPD is still at 11% and the CDU keeps dropping further. It's not, or rather, we're not allowed to call it corruption, but we have to say it's this cronyism that's become widespread here, which keeps making people stop voting for the established old parties. And right there, we already have the next piece of bad news for us today.
Bad news in Dortmund. The hostage situation ended without bloodshed. A father who barricaded himself with his 3 children for hours.
So once again, before anyone says you can't blame everything on politics, yes, I can. News like this before 2015, when did we ever have it? Once a month, once every 6 months. So if things were really going well, you might have only had news like this once a year. Today, this kind of news comes weekly or even daily. We can actually say, if we go 2 or 3 weeks without this kind of news, then things are really going well. It's these crises that break out, and at the same time, citizens are being increasingly tyrannized by politicians, which leads to many people here in Germany just losing their minds. And then they get messages like, just listen to this clip from start to finish, and then honestly tell me again, do you think it's cool that something like this is done with our tax money? And at the same time, do you think it's good that companies pay people so much just to gain influence in the system?
Do you actually know Ali Doran? You don't? But you should. He's from the SPD. In addition to his role as an official in the FDP, Ali Doran is a district administrator and a member of the German County Association, a board member of the IG Standortförderung in the Mindelbücke district, on the supervisory board of Krabak, chairman of the administrative board of Mühlenkreislinien, and on the board of the Dümmer Nature Park. He is a member of the Shareholders Assembly of OBL GmbH von Reitungen in Mindelbücke and the Association of Municipal RWE Shareholders. He advises the Regional Council, attends RWE's general meeting, and chairs the Association Future Training Mühlenkreis. But that's not all. He is also chairman of the Rural Area Alliance, a member of the Board of Trustees of the Edeka Foundation in Hanover, a member of the Supervisory Board of the Savings Bank, a member of the Board Members Committee, a member of the Committee, a member of the Savings Bank Association, a member of the Board Members, and a member of the Supervisory Board.
Weiteren 34 Vereinen hinzu.
And in addition to all these roles, Mr. Dohan, as you might have guessed, is also a member of the State Prevention Council of North Rhine-Westphalia.
Yes, I started listing them faster and faster at the end, just so you understand. No, even an SPD member only has 24 hours in a day. But the question is, and I showed this as well, how many committees he is in. So basically, from how many committees he actually receives money. In Rhineland-Palatinate, AfD members simply didn't get into the committees because they didn't have the necessary votes. And now hold on. In each of these committees, he gets money for it, for what he does. Sometimes it's 20 euros per month. Sometimes it's 2,000 euros per month. At the same time, you also have your hand in the game, lobbying for extremely large companies. And yes, you're seriously asking yourselves why people here are losing their minds. Why people are no longer willing and why people are shooting at police officers after just a few weeks ago they saw that you can simply slaughter a police officer and end up in a psychiatric ward and the prison sentence isn't even that high. Yes, that's exactly the problem people here have. They can no longer tell the difference between right and wrong. Just like Annalena Baerbock, for example, who now has to disclose her text messages because she promoted the UN in several countries, even though she's not actually allowed to do that yet. And apparently there are already people here who are whispering about it. And the court has now also decided that there will probably be a criminal complaint, a report filed because she has abused and violated her office. And that's the news, which is why I simply say this chancellor is so unpopular. This chancellor has to go. The politics need to be changed. There is practically no oversight committee in Germany anymore. And at the same time, we're being served a new lie every day.
This is the worst result in 4.5 years, and now the union is 6 points behind the AfD again.
That's the worst in 4.5. While I'm unfortunately not as forgetful of history as, for example, a Gabor Steingart, I can tell you what this survey actually shows. September 2021, the CDU at 19%. And they brought out the Red Sox campaign and kept attacking the left-green woke alliance every single day. They can't do that anymore. This strategy can't work anymore. They've thrown everything they had at it and are basically falling now. Back then, people said the 20% tipping point has been reached. Now we have to do something. This time, however, the union is powerless. They have nothing left up their sleeve, for example, to say, we will, among other things, prevent a left-wing alliance. Back then, it led to the union still reaching 24%, and Armin Laschet didn't make it into the government anymore. But then, years later, they recovered because they constantly attacked left-wing policies. Today, they have to realize that they only have this one single option. That's why these statements keep coming up. Yes, the Federal Republic is a cumbersome tanker, and in this legislative period, there probably won't be any more reforms. There are simply too many elections where we could potentially lose, which relates to what I showed you earlier, that we might not be able to employ these people anymore. And just imagine an SPD politician who no longer earns 30,000 euros a month, but maybe only 2,000 or 3,000 euros because he's been chased out. That's just not acceptable. Even the union can't justify that to their own voters anymore. That's why things are so heated internally, like when Saskia Ludwig, for example, considered releasing a statement last week. And I still wonder how she was able to stay so calm during that statement. I think she gave that interview to Apollo News.
For the bitterly disappointed citizens, you are already the Chancellor of Lies, Mr. Merz, whose broken campaign promises could fill entire catalogues.
And people no longer believe the narrative about the far-right AfD members who are coming from the right and want to take the whole system back to a time before Adenauer. Fewer and fewer people still believe the lies he tells, or these half-truths, or whatever you want to call them. I'll just quote Alice Weidel here to stay on legally safe ground. Of course, I would never claim that Friedrich Merz is lying. But just take a look at the statements he makes, and I have to say, folks, he has broken everything he promised. If those aren't lies, then what are they? And at the same time, the CDU base is increasingly up in arms. Internally, a power struggle has broken out within the CDU. That by now, the state associations wouldn't even share information externally anymore, because everything is immediately absorbed by the press, instantly made public, and once again, the CDU is at a crossroads. If the 19, then he's gone.